What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is a crazy busy time in the summer of soccer. We got Euros in the morning, Copa America in the evenings, and MLS every Saturday, and then also a decent amount of Wednesdays. It's nonstop soccer. It's the transfer window. It's nonstop everything. So there is ample things to talk about, write about, watch, consume, whatever. Today, we're just going to kind of stick to the transfer news, a weekly roundup here of the latest news around Major League Soccer. We've got a shock bid from FC Cincinnati for a national team star. Thiago Almada watches back. Moïse Bombito watches here. Aidan Morris and Frankie Amaya. All of that and much more. Breaking it down here. First up, FC Cincinnati's pursuit of U.S. national team and Juventus star Weston McKennie. Yeah, that's been a big topic of conversation over the last few days. It was first reported by Pro Soccer Wire. I don't have exact details, so all I can say right now is the interest is real, the smoke is real. People have been talking, and then some other people have been extremely quiet, which in my experience can be a bit of a giveaway as to, hey, there's something going on that we don't want to talk about. So that's where things are with FC Cincinnati, Weston McKennie, and this is not likely to go away anytime soon. This is, again, Copa America's going on. Weston's with the national team. Cincinnati are still 3-4 weeks away from the transfer window opening. Still don't have an open DP spot because they're sorting the future of Aaron Bupenza, who's back within the team on the bench, all that, after he recovered from a broken jaw. So a lot of moving parts. This is very complicated. And one smaller note, Cincy would have to get Weston McKennie's rights from FC Dallas because FC Dallas tried to sign Weston McKennie to a homegrown deal when he was coming through their academy. McKennie opted to decline that and head straight to Europe. He went to Schalke. That's kind of where he started breaking out. And that's how he began his career. But because FC Dallas made that homegrown offer and he was in their academy, they technically have his rights. From what I understand, since he have notified Dallas that, hey, this is a possibility or something, right, that they're working on it. But the two sides haven't started discussing what that compensation would be like. So my assumption is nothing super close. And that goes all back to my overarching point on this. This is a super ambitious pursuit by FC Cincinnati. Would it make sense? I mean, maybe not for Weston McKennie's career, but definitely so for his bank account. And if you're FC Cincinnati, swing big, man. Worst that can happen is they say no, right? This has definitely been something that they've been looking into. Matt Miazga was on the periphery of the national team when they brought him back from Chelsea. They signed Miles Robinson this winter when we all thought that he was either going to stay at Atlanta or go to Europe. And now they're leveraging those connections. They're leveraging the stadium, the training facilities, all that to try to say, hey, we are state-of-the-art facilities, everything else we're building. Our ownership has the financial power to really make your dreams come true on these contracts. Look back to 2014 World Cup cycle. Josie Altidore, Michael Bradley, Clint Dempsey, they all kind of came back because the biggest offers on the table, they're more valuable here to a Major League Soccer team than, say, being a regular starter, a key player for Juventus, but not somebody who's, say, selling tickets at Juventus or somebody who's going on loan to Leeds, right? So that's just a reality situation and why this is on the table, or at least why this is within the realm of possible. I'm trying to be careful the way I talk about this just because it is so fluid and it's, there's not a ton that's out there right now. But on the Juventus side of things too, with this contract expiring in a year, they don't really care where the money comes from, right? If it's a Premier League club that gives them a bid that they like or at Cincinnati, doesn't matter. The money's the money, right? So we'll kind of see where this goes, how this happens, if Cincinnati can really convince him. There's a slight argument to be made that, one positive would be, McKennie could grow as a leader in that him and Lucho would be the guys at Cincy, right? And he would have to expand his game attacking more than he has so far. And, he would have the pressure of being, a deciding factor for a club that he doesn't have at Juventus. And kind of, or more so at Leeds, just in that they look to him as a winter signing, to try to save their season. But I guess it's different. This would be more like a role that he has with the national team where he's extremely important to whether the U.S. national team wins or loses. So there's an argument to be made about leadership and that weight of pressure and all of that. And again, I understand the counter arguments are the weight of pressure of playing for Cincinnati versus Juventus are much different. Playing for Cincinnati versus playing in the Premier League are much different, right? But that's just one angle of this. And again, I'm not pretending Cincinnati are better suited for McKennie than a Premier League club is, but hey, that's not Cincinnati's job. Cincinnati's job is to put the best team that they can possibly put out on the field. And McKennie would, while he's not an obvious fit in that I think it's more obvious that they need a forward, and I think that's what they have been saying as well. Like, this is one of those, like, crap, if you can go get Weston McKennie, you kind of do. Like, center back wasn't really a need for them either, and they went and got Miles Robinson, and that made a ton of sense. So, I don't know. I'm super curious. It's definitely a weird one. Like, the first I was hearing about it, probably about 4 or 5 days before it kind of came out publicly, I was like, that can't be real, right? Like, is this real? Like, do they have the money? Did all this, like... So it's been a lot to wrap my head around, and I know fans have kind of felt similar. But that's just where this one is for me. I guess it's one, like, Weston McKennie, this summer saga is going to keep going, again, whether it's Cincy or whether it's somewhere else. Seems extremely likely to change clubs from Juventus this summer. And my last point on this, though, I'd say, look, Weston had 34 appearances for Juventus last year after being pushed out and expected to leave. Like, he gave a really good interview to Adam Crafton of The Athletic where he kind of detailed that. He's like, dude, they gave away my locker, like my parking space, all this other stuff. And, like, I don't know, man. Like, people, if he does end up coming to Cincy, people are going to either question his mentality or say stuff like that. But, like, if this dude had a weak mentality when he got back to Juventus and they, gave away a parking spot that he hadn't have anywhere to park. Like, if he had a weak mentality, he just would have said, screw you guys, I'm out, right? Like, I don't care. Said he fought, won back his spot, and he had probably best season of his career, maybe, if like one of the best. So Weston McKennie's mentality, I don't think is something to really ever be questioned. And, that's that. We'll see what happens next for him, but definitely would be quite the career trajectory to do Schalke, Juventus, Leeds loan, and then Cincinnati at 25. It'd be very, very unique. The next big transfer story that's going on right now, and that's another one that's been a little bit difficult for me to wrap my head around, Thiago Almada and Botafogo and Eagle Football Holdings, and I don't know, the perils of the multi-club ownership thing and where things can go. A little bit confusing. This is a good example. So, again, Fabrizio Romano, I believe, first reported C.L. Merlo, but, like, it was very distinct in how they said Eagle Football Holdings and not Botafogo or Lyon or Crystal Palace, whatever. So those are the clubs that are within that umbrella. There's conflicting reports on personal terms have been agreed, but then also Almada's not totally convinced by going to Botafogo. And, like, look, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, why would he go to Botafogo? Like again, like all of the, like I'm not suggesting that none of this is real or anything. I'm saying kind of, is he not good enough to go directly to Lyon? Because I think pretty obviously he is. I don't know why it would make sense for his career to go to Botafogo unless that, like, again, John Texer, the owner of all of this, like, is he pushing for him to go to Botafogo for a little bit before either going to Crystal Palace or Lyon? Or maybe the idea is, hey, you start it at Botafogo and then go to Palace rather than go to Lyon, and then who knows, right? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Look, like, he's an MVP finalist in 2023. He is the marquee young star in Major League Soccer. He's the league record for incoming transfer at $16 million, and like this deal, the reports are that the bid is coming in around $20 million, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like, this would be a disappointment, I think, for all parties, because one, we were talking not only 6 months ago of, is this going to be a league record fee? Me and Paul Tenorio did our GM survey. That was one of the questions. Will Thiago Almada break the league record transfer fee? The majority was no, just not like nobody was doubting his talents or whether he was worth it or not. It was just like, hey, how many teams are out there that can afford this, right? Like, so that's where that came from. But that was the conversation, and that was a fair conversation. And there was a lot of people that said, yeah, like, it's going to be $30 million or whatever, right? Like, so not just the fee, but going to Botafogo, like, that's just a sideways step at this stage of his career. Like, he's obviously very good enough to go direct to Lyon, and I don't understand why this isn't the conversation. And, like, again, the teams we were talking about for him were like Atletico Madrid, Napoli. Like, these are some of the teams that have been linked. Like, we've been saying it in theory of a Premier League or a top-end Serie A or whatever. Like, those are the teams that would be able to afford him and, the right quality for him. So there's just a lot going on here. I'm going to pull up his FB ref chart from 2023, his MVP finalist season. Like, look at all these numbers, man. Like, you could probably knock him up for, I guess, the defensive work rate, but like in this Atlanta team, like, you don't have him there to try to be counter pressing and everything, right? 95th percentile and up in so many things, like 99th percentile in expected assists and 97th percentile in shot creating actions. Like, this dude's a star. He's the captain, probably going to be the captain of the Argentina Olympic team. Again, like, if the Copa America, if the Olympics weren't in August or July, like, he would have been within a shout for the Copa team, right? Like, he was on the World Cup squad in 2022, the first active MLS player. Like, talking about that and then being like, oh, like, he's just going to end up going back to Brazil for a little bit. Like, I don't know. Who knows what the finances look like, and who knows, what the other options or lack of other options are. I think Atlanta at this point would be motivated to sell him this summer, particularly if he said, I don't really have any interest in renewing a contract. Again, I don't know if he said that, but like, this would be the best time to try to replace him. And I know that they're well prepared, and they've had conversations, and they've identified potential targets to replace Thiago Almada this summer. And they already have to do that with Yorgos Giacomakis at center forward. So it's a transitional summer. It's a pivotal summer for Atlanta United. They also have to hire a head coach, by the way. But like, this would kind of be a clean slate for all. And I don't know. Let's see what else happens. And do they roll the dice? Do they try to wait until the Olympics? Like, the Olympics ends a few days before the summer transfer window ends in MLS. Like, that's dicey if you're trying to do that high wire act of replace them. Like, Columbus Crew nailed it last year by within 48 hours, they officially transferred Lucas El Rayon to the Middle East and signed Diego Rossi. Like, we dream or we hope that we can plan that out. Doesn't always work like that, right? Like, so it's definitely a high wire act. Atlanta United, Thiago Almada watch is always going to continue, but at least I guess the positive news is things are moving forward with something rather than just saying, oh, we're waiting for bids or whatever. So who knows? This is one to follow, but again, another confusing one for me. As for one that isn't confusing to me, Moïse Bombito, Lyon have made a bid to the Colorado Rapids for the Canadian national team star. Again, this makes sense. This is the same ownership group, again, except Fabrizio Romano had a line in his tweet kind of about this today too, saying like maybe like they'll discuss if he should go to Botafogo first or not. Like, why wouldn't he just stay at Colorado? Again, like it's their clubs, their money if they get the deal done to decide whatever they want. But if I'm Moïse Bombito, I'd rather stay at Colorado. I know that Colorado, we're hoping, hey, let's, like, as early as a few months ago, hopefully we can re-sign him to a new long-term deal where he's happy, because right now he's on his super draft contract. There's like 2.5 years left, but it's paltry, the money he's on, so they would have, tried to proactively give him a pay raise, keep him, and then say in 18 months we'll move you on directly to the Premier League or directly to the Champions League. Well, his talent and his ability has accelerated even over these last few months that I think he might be ready to go to a club like Lyon right now. He might be ready to go to kind of, not a non-feeder club, right? Somebody who's challenging for European spots in one of the top 5 leagues. So that's just a credit to Moïse Bombito and his development, his meteoric rise in the last 24 months. Really, he went from college soccer, and he started at community college, then he went to an NCAA club, and then in the draft, on the bench for Colorado, and then towards the end of last season, he really started playing regularly. And then this season, he's been one of the best center backs in the league, and he's kind of written in pen as a starter with the Canadian national team. It's just phenomenal to watch this development. The interest isn't new here. There's probably urgency in watching him play at the Copa America and play so well. Probably urgency that teams want to try to get this done now if they can, because clubs have sent scouts to come watch him in Colorado all season. That's something that I know for a fact. So it's not like they watched him against Argentina. It was like, oh my God, who is this, right? Like, this is somebody that's been on the radar of European clubs for a little while. So this one's super interesting. Look, like, he's one of the best center backs in the league this year. He's athletically elite. There's been, he's been tracked as having the fastest sprint speed in Major League Soccer, and this is a very athletic league. So for a center back to be winning this, it's extremely impressive. He's gotten much, much better with his technical ability, his intelligence, his manipulation of space. Like, there's just all around a lot to like. He can still grow further, and he will, whether that's at Colorado or, again, more likely to be at one of these clubs, and we'll see what happens next. A couple more here of the bigger news to come. Aidan Morris, as I've been reporting, he will finalize his move to Middlesboro this week. He played his final game with the Columbus Crew on Saturday. Again, something that I have been reporting in the weeks and days leading up. The deal will be around $4 million in Middlesboro. I want to reiterate, Aidan Morris was the one who wanted to play a couple more games for Columbus. Aidan Morris is the one who wanted to have one final home game. Like, there were 2 games. He's played in 3 games since this deal was more or less agreed and ready to go. The first 2 were away, and he was like, I want to play a home game. Like, it was really, really cool. Here's a quote that Aidan Morris, again, the videos have been circulating in him being subbed off and the reaction he's got from the crowd and the reaction of him just kind of taking in that moment. This is what he said after the game. My heart is black and gold. They've had my back since I was 18, since I first started. I've been through thick and thin here. My coming back, fighting for starting positions. It's been a long journey, and this club means so much to me, and Wilfred Nancy and his staff mean so much to me. It's just beautiful, man. Like, this is modern MLS. This is the A-plus story. This is a kid who developed, made more than 100 professional appearances, won 2 MLS Cups, got to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, just went from talented young player. He kind of came out of nowhere for that 2020 MLS Cup final, in which he stepped in for Darlington Nagbe and won. And then it was like, then he suffered a long-term injury, came back. All right, this is a really interesting talent. Wilfried Nancy comes in, he takes a leap, and it's like, oh my God, like this kid could be national team good. And okay, like what's next? And then they win MLS Cup again, and he's playing the best soccer of his career. Columbus get a good deal for him. They have a sell-on percentage in this deal because they believe in him to continue climbing when he gets to Europe, and they're helping to move him on. And it's not perfect happening mid-season, of course, but that's the nature of this business. That's the nature of the game, and they're going to look to replace him. They've already brought in Dylan Chambost. They have Derek Jones on this team. Sean Zawaski can play in the midfield. There's a lot of versatile players within this team, so I'm not worried about it, particularly because Wilfried Nancy's a cheat code in that you give him any player, and they're like 20% better under him. Like Morris talked about his relationship to Nancy, and like look at the recent young players to be transferred by after playing with Wilfried Nancy. Ishmael Kone, George Mihailovic, Alistair Johnson, now Aidan Morris. That's like $18 or $20 million in transfer fees over the past couple of years. Literally every single young attacker has had their career best season under Wilfried Nancy, and a number of box-to-box midfielders like Aidan Morris, or again like Ishmael Kone was that. Defenders, Malty Admondson has had his best time with him. Rudy Camacho has had his best moments of his career, both in Montreal and now Columbus. Like everything this man touches, he makes better. And that's the beauty of the Columbus group. And again, I don't want to be dismissive and pretend like it's easy to replace Aidan Morris, because it's not, particularly for his value and his contract and his understanding of being with this group, what the club means, all that stuff. Like the way that he can dictate space, both by ground covering and again, his intelligence. Playing next to Darlington Nagbe helps as well. But again, this is just a win-win all around. It's modern MLS. This is the story that all of these clubs want. It's Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie winning the Supporters' Shield with the Philadelphia Union before going abroad. Like this is what it is. It's winning and development and selling on. That's the trifecta. And if MLS can continue to do that, this league will continue to grow. And it's just a great story. Similar vibes here on this next one. Frankie Amaya, he is off to Toluca. That deal is around $3.5 million up front with some add-ons on top. And again, like Morris, he's not a homegrown player for the Red Bulls like Morris was for the Crew. He started his career with FC Cincinnati, but Amaya's really blossomed with the New York Red Bulls. He's a very good MLS player, and those players cost money. The Red Bulls and Amaya weren't really close on contract negotiations, but it wasn't contentious at all. Like both sides were like, hey, fair enough, we get it, right? Like it's good that the Red Bulls learn from past mistakes. Sean Davis, Aaron Long left for free. Christian Castros left for under $1 million because his contract was about to expire. They were proactive on this one, and that's, again, it's key to modern soccer. It's key to continuing to evolve rosters, right? Like, this has been good because it's a clean exit, not contentious. Both sides are very happy with each other. This was, he was loved by the fans. He made an impact. He made this team better. He's going to be difficult to replace as well. And again, like this is all kind of more of a kumbaya, happy story going out the door, unlike Aaron Long, which was very contentious. Unlike kind of like Sean Davis, it wasn't contentious, but like they turned down trade offers for him rather than cashing in Christian Castros. Like they could have gotten more money from him, but they didn't, just failed on the business side. But as far as Frankie Amaya's situation, here's head coach Sandro Schwartz after the game, quote, "He deserves everything. It's a great finish for him to individually have these moments in the locker room." It's very cool. Again, this is particularly what this club needs as well, to continue to re-ingratiate themselves with the fan base, to have a player like this. Like they've made strides on this in the past couple of years for me. And I think this team has been much more likable and much more kind of in tune with the fans. Again, it seems like they're really going for it again with the Emil Forsberg deal. And from what I've been told, that they're trying to bring in a DP forward this summer. They're going to try to replace Frankie Amaya because they're light in the midfield. They're going to need another central midfield. Obviously, this team is in win now mode with when your best player is Emil Forsberg at 32 years old or whatever. And to immediately replace Amaya is going to be difficult in terms of value dollar for dollar, and a player coming in and being kind of able to immediately play at the level that Frankie Amaya was playing. It's not easy, right? But this is just the nature of the business and the nature of MLS clubs. And it was important for the Red Bulls to have another kind of positive transfer story and have another positive exit where, hey, maybe it's not perfect that he's leaving when he's leaving, but like it's a good deal. It's good for the player. It's good for the club. And now the onus is on them to replace him. And this would be, I think, a little bit easier if Peter Stroud was, ready to play and everything else. But hey, we'll see. We'll see where they go from here. We're a few weeks from the transfer window opening. Again, the Red Bulls are pretty comfortably one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, so they have a chance to really push towards that contending line, and I hope they do. We'll see if they do. But Frankie Amaya off to Liga MX, off to Toluca. That'll do it for me today. A lot of big transfer news. I didn't even touch on Marcel Hardo coming to St. Louis. I haven't touched on a couple of these other deals. I haven't touched on Luchi Gonzalez getting fired by the San Jose Earthquakes. A lot's going on in this league. Copa America, everything else, right? It should be a busy week, I think, for me for here. There's plenty to talk about. We're at the midseason point. Transfer window's opening soon. Players are coming out. The deals are already coming in. Austin signed a Ukraine international center back. All of this, right? So plenty to talk about, and I look forward to doing it. Thanks for tuning in.